My name is Lyndon Zolke, and I am here with Michael Proctor of Leading Edge Financial Planning. And we're going to be talking about when is the right time to retire. Because this is a question, or not so much a question, but more of a concern of many of our clients. They want to retire, but they're not quite sure when. When are you going to retire? What sort of answer do you normally get back from them?
65.
65? Isn't that interesting that a law passed in sometime during the Great Depression is still the answer that people give on when they want to retire?
That is interesting.
It has nothing to do with how much money they have or whether or not they like their job. It's just 65.
It's just 65. Sometimes it's as soon as possible.
Yeah, I do hear that too.
That also tells me they probably don't enjoy what they do.
I've also heard yesterday. The idea of 65, though, comes from the fact that that's when they can get Medicare. And most people think, wrongly, but they think they need to wait till 65, otherwise they won't have health insurance.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It is a big one, but it is possible to get health insurance without Medicare.
Certainly. And now there's programs in place that make it even more affordable than people realize.
Yeah.
You know, if you've been working for 30 or 40 years and you've been earning an income to pay your bills, to live, to survive, and all of a sudden you're considering stopping that, and there's a part of your brain that says, well, we still need to survive, you know? Like, what are we gonna do now? And that's been especially if that's been a major source of security throughout life, of going to work, you know, earning your income to live and survive, then your brain is going to have a really hard time making that switch to now that your investments are actually going to work for you instead of you going to work for you. And there's a sense of trust and release that's got to happen there to realize that, hey, you know, we actually have done the things we need to do. We're sitting well financially, and this is simply the next step of financial transition, if that's the step we're prepared to take, and we want to take it.
Well, one of the issues that I run into a lot is where one of them not usually, maybe it sounds sexist, but usually the guy wants to work a long time. And maybe the wife is ready for them to go to the next season of their life where they can do more things together. And have you run into that?
Absolutely. Yeah, but even amongst spouses, especially when there's an age gap, maybe one is older by a few years than the other, and the one that's older, and also there's a period of life where health concerns start to show up. And, you know, once you hit 55 or so, your medication Rolodex starts to grow, and your medical rap sheet starts to grow as well. And you're just simply, it's the aging process, and you're not as healthy and often not as spry as you used to be, but you still want to get out and do those things. So often couples have been saving their whole lives for, hey, let's go have fun in retirement. But then when do we make that transition? When do we get there? And let's do it sooner than later while we still can health-wise, because there may come a point when we can't fly on a plane, or there may come a point when we can't take a long car drive. But, you know, let's make sure that there's still a window for that opportunity. And sometimes one spouse will get there sooner than the other, and the other still feels like they've got some career left in them, or they're not quite as, you know, there's things they still wanted to do, and they have to choose between, well, is this the most important thing, or is the other one the most important thing? You know, and so there's a kind of an openness where you just got to lay those things down and look at it and figure out which one has deeper meaning and which one you really want to go for. Maybe there's middle ground. In fact, there's a lot of middle ground. You can go part-time, you can cut back hours, you can take off the summer or take off a few months at a time. Many time employers don't necessarily want to lose you as an employee altogether because there's so much capital you've built up with the company over the years, where they're willing to work it out with you, where you can still have a hybrid model of still pursuing the accomplishments at work that you've wanted to, and at the same time taking periods of time to spend time with your spouse and figure it out, find that middle ground to where you can have it both ways. What are some of the best solutions you've found as far as clients that one is retiring and the other's not quite ready, but maybe the one that is retiring feels like they're kind of doing it by themselves, and they really want that companionship with their spouse during that period of time?
Yeah, well, we do have a program that we can take people through, which will help coach them so it can prepare them for retirement, which, believe it or not, some people, once they actually do retire, find out that it's not like what they expected.
Right.
And maybe they're not as fulfilled. They were so busy with their career that they never had time to develop any hobbies. And so retirement is actually not a great time of life for them. And we do have a way to help prepare people for that.
Yes, we do. Yeah, no, that's I think that's one of the richest values that we can offer is help. Once they make that transition, help them to get the most out of it, because that is a lot of time that you have that you can invest in something, doing something, and it's not like the purpose of your life all of a sudden ended when your career did.
Yeah.
In fact, hopefully you don't ever feel that way, but some people do.